Hello! I thought I would film an update in a different location today, which is actually my family room where I keep most of the fiction books that I am collecting on these shelves here. They're hard to see. The two top shelves on the left and right are glass. They were glass when we moved in, and I'm going to replace them with wood, so they're the color of that wood on the bottom. These are cabinets that were here when we moved in, and they were painted entirely black, and then the wood was showing, and that was a look. That was interesting. I could see how that could go with some decor, some types of decor, but I painted them this green gray color just to lighten up this whole area. So that's that. I wonder if we will be visited by my little Suki while I'm sitting here. So anyway, I wanted to give you an update. Update on things that I have finished would be Cheapland, Colorado. This phrase, Cheapland, Colorado, is a phrase that is most often typed into Google searches when someone is looking for cheap land in the United States. This is from research that the author, who's a journalist, Ted Conover, has found out. And he really immerses himself in the San Luis Valley, where this area of parcels of land, I think it's 5 acres, generally for $5,000, can be found. And this is still, I actually Googled cheap land Colorado and found exactly the county. I think it's Katia County, where he was, and these people are living. So most of these plots don't have septic, and in some of these counties, septic is a regulation. You have to have septic, and sometimes it's enforced different. In different years it is, and others it isn't. But people are really living off the grid here, and his exploration is about what kinds of people are living in the flats, and it's fascinating. I absolutely love it. I am still reading, but I am more than halfway through Valley of the Birdtail. This is written by two people that have law degrees. I don't know that they're practicing law now, but one is a Canadian settler. The other is a member of, it says he is Swampy Cree Beaver Clan of the Opaskwayak Cree Nation. So two people, one is a settler, one has indigenous roots, indigenous heritage, and it is about an area in Manitoba, which is the town of Rossburn, and then across the river or creek of Birdtail is the Wayway Sea Capo Reserve, as it's called, and it is a story of the history of this area, and from the late 1800s to present day, and it has been a real journey, and I'll get into that in more depth once I've finished, but I've really gained an education about that part of Canadian history, and it's going to lead me to other books about US history, but this is something that Sean the Book Maniac is reading right now. I just saw his video today. I wondered whether he was reading it, and he is. So I went to the library today, and I knew they had some holds for me, but as is what happens when you walk into a library, you see the new releases, new fiction, new nonfiction, and something always catches my eye. Something didn't catch my eye today in the news section, but I happened to be going to the fiction stacks. This is a very large library that I go to, and I was actually just gonna look at an Elizabeth Gaskell book, North and South, to see if I wanted to read it. And I just happened to get to the G's, and this was on the shelf, and it is Rebecca Goldstein or Goldstein, I don't know. This is a book written in the 80s, and it's called The Mind-Body Problem. I feel like I've heard about this book, but I don't know. The main character is a college-age young woman. Her name happens to be Renee, and so far it's going to be about her sexual experience, but then she gets married, and it's going to be about further exploration, but I don't really know yet entirely. But I'm like 20 pages into this book, and I'm just compelled to keep reading. I love the writing. It's in first person. I love the writing of this book. It's very literary, but with a light touch, and it's fascinating. It's too early for me to form real thoughts about it, but I mean, this is what happens when you walk into a library and you just see something. I was also there to explore a writer I just heard about from somebody on Bookstagrammer, Meyers Musings. I'm not saying his name right on Bookstagrammer, but I'll put it in the notes. That he was talking about, and his name is Adam Levin. I don't think it's Levine, it's Levin. Again, I don't know. But he was talking about the book Mount Chicago of Adam Levin, and he might do a read along in 2023. I don't know Adam Levin, so I started exploring his books online, and then I went to the library and I just wanted to look at them on the shelf. And Meyers mentioned his book Bubblegum, and it's really thick. It's like 700 pages, and it is dystopian, which I don't really like, but I started reading a couple pages when I was at the library, and I really liked the voice of these young boys, so I don't know. And then I saw Levin's book, what is it called? I'm forgetting the name of it now, but it is so thick. I could not believe it. Bigger than Infinite Jest even. And I can't remember the name, so I'll list it below. But really interesting writer who, I don't know whether I'll end up reading him or not. My hold was this brand new book that I must have seen in the New York Times, and it must have been a really good write-up, because I don't read a lot of current fiction, but it's called They're Going to Love You by Meg Howrey. It's a book about a dancer, a ballet dancer, and right away that almost even just turns me off. Really wouldn't be interested in reading a book about ballet, but it's really a book about her dad, who's gay, and he has a partner named James, so her dad's name is Robert. His mother is Isabel. They were all in the dance community in New York City, and she calls her mother Isabel, and I think she calls her dad Robert. And her dad is now elderly. He's 85, and he's always lived in this townhouse on Bank Street in New York City. She lives in LA, and so this is where the story picks up. But I am, I don't know, easily 35, 40 pages into it already, because I started reading it when I got home and I couldn't stop reading it. The voice, too early for me to really talk about it, but I'm really loving it. Then I got the very talked about Cormac McCarthy, The Passenger. I haven't really read very much about this book. It's everywhere on Bookstagrammer. It's a 2-part series. This is the first book, and then there's one which I don't remember the name of. but it is about a diver. It's a story of a salvage diver, haunted by loss, afraid of the watery deep, pursued by a conspiracy beyond his understanding. It's set in the 1980s, and his name is Bobby Western, and it starts off with him going on this dive to a sunken jet. There must have been an airplane accident, and a plane accident with 10 passengers or 9 passengers and a pilot, I'm not sure. But there is in terms of head count, there's a passenger missing. I think that's what it is. But anyway, I haven't read a Cormac McCarthy that I can remember. And so I'll try it out. I don't know. Then from a podcast that I listened to, Backlisted, I listened to the most recent episode, which is about Maeve Brennan, an Irish author who wrote a lot of short stories for The New Yorker, a magazine that I've been reading since the 90s. And this is a collection of her short stories. I'm not a short story person. I tried reading some short stories and recently, and I gave up on them. But this is called Homesick at The New Yorker, an Irish writer in exile. So I don't know, I'll try it. I was trying to read Claire Keegan's short story collection called Antarctica. I read the first story. It was written in 1999 and published in 2000, and the short stories really had a different voice, a different mood than Claire Keegan's current books that I've just read. So I'm sure it's the writing, if I would have kept on going, is very good. I could see the structure of the short story was written really well, but that first story even was alarming, and I don't know. I just wasn't in the mood. I'm sure it's very good writing because everything I've read from Claire Keegan is, but it just wasn't for me. And then I never did read Bliss Montage. I just never got to it, and I had to return it to the library. The only short story collection that I have had any luck with, I just remembered this when I was in the car, is a short story collection that I actually have on my phone and on my iPad from my Kindle app. And it's from Lionel Shriver, which is I think a very Marmite writer. I don't like everything that she writes, but she's a very intelligent writer, and the stuff that I like, I really like. And I must have downloaded it to read on a plane ride or something, and I was just blown away. Of course, I don't remember what it's called, so I will list it in the notes. That's all I have for now. I can't wait to get to these 2 books that I just talked about, and also to dig into this one. I did return all of the Iris Murdochs to the library because apparently I just am not into Iris Murdoch right now. I do intend to maybe read The Sea with a buddy read along with someone whom I'm connected to on Bookstagrammer in 2023. I don't know, we'll see. So any feedback that you have about any of the authors that I've talked about here, any experiences with any of the authors, I'd be glad to chat about in the comments. Let me know, and have a wonderful week reading.